Hey, Travis here, Exercise Lab, with kind of another fun one for you guys today. Just sort of a holiday, sort of a fun video. I want to introduce this thing called the Medusa Bar by Titan Fitness, which is just kind of a fun little limited edition Medusa Bar. They put it in green and just did a couple of things to it. So I'll be talking to you about that. And then just a few, barbell exercises you guys maybe haven't done in a while. I've talked to the channel kind of at various points, and obviously there's only so many hours in the day. You always want to have your bread and butter exercises, but then from time to time, it's good to kind of mix things up. Hit muscles from different angles, give the joints a little bit of a novel stress. All right, so it's going to give you guys kind of a look at the Medusa Bar. Again, I'll come out and say, I don't think you guys need to necessarily get this bar. Just kind of a kitschy, fun little thing I thought would be good for Halloween. I just happened to need another barbell that I wanted that was a little stronger with better knurling. And this happened to have that, and lo and behold, this bar came out. And so I just thought, okay, fine. Instead of just getting a silver bar, I'll go ahead and just grab this this Medusa bar. So it's got this cool green that I'll show you in a minute. It's got these Medusa end caps, just kind of a little funness factor. And it's got this little Medusa inscription on here. But I do like the knurling a lot. It's really got, some pretty good grip. It definitely doesn't feel like it's going to slip out of your hands very easily, which for certain lifts will be a big plus. So again, that bent over row, it's going to be great because this bar is going to be easier to hold on to. Wouldn't necessarily want, super rigid knurling though on, say, some deadlifts, because that's just going to eat those shins right up. So kind of depends on the lifts you're doing. So here's just kind of a look at that green. It's kind of a nice dark green, sort of has that snake-like appearance. So, again, I think it's kind of cool, but nothing that's going to be a deal breaker if you guys don't get one of these. The silver bars obviously will do the trick, but that's the Medusa bar for you. So one thing I want to show you guys real quick, this is kind of my own personal, preference and flavor that I put on my barbell rows. I like to attach a band in addition to plates. And I can do that because I've got, a plate rack in front here I can anchor it to. Depending on your setup, you might have your pegs on the side. You can do it that way. You could even just use a big dumbbell or something you can fix, the band to. So a lot of ways you can do this. I like to have it kind of forward facing a little bit because it makes you sort of pull the bar into you. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. Rather than just having it straight down on the sides, because at that point, you're getting that accommodating resistance, but in the same line as gravity. Whereas I like this not to just be pulling, down, but also forward. And so as I come in here, normally you put your plates on here, and obviously gravity is going to be pulling this thing towards the floor. But now you have this additional factor of this barbell getting pulled forward. And so by keeping it drawn, into you, you really have to engage your lats, shoulders as well. And so I like to come down in here and have to pull this into me. And, I can feel it even with just the band alone without even having the plates on. And the plates actually will minimize the effect of this band to a degree, but depending on how far back you stand or how strong the band is, you can kind of play around with that tension. And I have a bars and bands video for you, those of you who want a deeper dive on this. But again, that's just kind of my own personal 2 cents on how I like to do barbell rows to get a little bit more lat recruitment, a little bit less demand on that low back, sort of get the best of both worlds again, which is what we do here at Exercise Lab. All right, so I got the band on here, just a couple of plates, not going to go too heavy, just want to show you guys. Now, some guys will do this a couple different ways. You hear about, Pendlay rows and Yates rows and bent over. They're basically variations on bent over rows. Some people will come all the way down here and they'll row from kind of the floor and almost touch the, sometimes they'll touch the plates all the way to the ground. That's a pretty aggressive bent over row stance. Technically your line is a little more, horizontal, but, low back's going to be doing a ton of work there. I find if I kind of sit more about here, pull it into the navel. So again, I'm not pulling it up high. I'm pulling it kind of down low, kind of right between my navel and sort of that, hip line area. I pull it right down there. I still feel like I get a really good contraction in my lats. Low back has to work, obviously, isometrically to keep your body there, but it doesn't have to work terribly hard. So that's kind of how I like to approach this. That's the way I do it. And I kind of feel like I can get the best of both worlds that way. So here it is. So grab onto your bar, hip width or so, up and out. Again, I got that tension. This thing's wanting to get pulled this way by the band. So kind of a nice addition in addition to the, the plates, obviously. Come on down in here, right in the navel. Good. And that's how I like to do my bent over rows. Okay, so in keeping with my love of bands, I'm going to do a landmine press now. And the way I've done this is I attached a band going down that I've anchored sort of a little bit in and forward. And the main reason I do that is so that this gets pulled just a little bit this way to give those external rotators a little bit more work. And again, that's my own 2 cents on how I like to do landmines. I don't do it this way all the time, obviously. But the cool thing is when you do, it's just going to make those rotator cuff muscles have to engage a little bit more. And again, I'm somebody who's had some shoulder issues in the past. This is going to be a lot of anterior deltoid, which is great, if you're trying to target those muscles. But that being said, if you can engage those rotator cuffs a little bit more, I generally like to try and do that. Now with these, you can keep this strict and make it more of a shoulder exercise, or you can come in here, put a little explosive power into it with your legs. Sometimes I like to do them that way. It just kind of varies on, you know, my mood and sort of what I'm doing for that day, what I'm trying to emphasize. But that's a cool way you can sort of put a spin on a landmine press that maybe you guys haven't tried. Again, it is a little bit of a hassle to set that up. So if that's a big deal for you, standard landmines are totally fine. Regardless of how you do them, I think doing them is probably the more important thing. It's a great exercise if you guys happen to have access to a landmine. So put that in the mixture if you guys haven't tried that in a while. All right, so last but not least is going to be the famous Meadows row. For that, I'll typically take a staggered stance, you know, one hand on the knee, come down in here and you grab your landmine. And then from there, you sort of pull into a little bit of a mid row. And so you come in here and row basically like this. So it's a little bit like a bent over barbell row, only your elbows going to be coming, you know, quite a bit more out to the side. It'll sort of allow you to get a little bit more in that medial deltoid, but still getting that rear delt for sure. And just kind of a cool variation at, you know, obviously the late and great John Meadows apparently came up with. And I think it's a great staple for those of you who, you know, have access to a landmine again. And so that's something I think I actually kind of had forgot about for a while. And then when I remembered, I started doing it again. And I think it's a great exercise. So that's the last one for you guys today. That's the Meadows row. All right, so a little bonus for you guys, you know, in keeping with my affinity for bands. I'm going to put a band around this thing, and then what I do from there is I just put it around my foot. And so you guys could certainly put the band straight around the barbell. I happen to have this little carabiner set up, and that's just my personal preference. Allows me to get the tension a little later in the game since this is a fairly short band. But again, you know, not a big deal at all. From there, same kind of staggered stance you would without it. Everything else is identical. And then from there, again, I'm just getting more resistance at the top. All right, so that's the video for you guys today. Just wanted to kind of throw a photo at you guys. A couple of exercises that maybe you guys aren't doing all the time. You know, I try to keep them in my rotation, but like I said, I'd kind of forgotten about the Meadows row. I know it's there, but it's just one of those things that kind of escapes you when you're working out sometimes. So there it is. Again, you know, kind of a different way to maybe throw some bands into barbell rows, and then, you know, landmines, which I think are great for those of you who happen to have access to one. Cool thing is, even if you don't have a landmine set up like I have attached to my rack, they make little devices now. You can just kind of like a little, you know, circular cap thing you could put on the end of your barbell and essentially just do it freestanding. So I know AbMat makes one. A lot of companies probably make them these days. So you can definitely get one of those, and they're not terribly expensive to sort of give you access to a landmine. So that's all there for you. Fairly accessible stuff for those of you guys who have a barbell. As always, I hope you guys have a happy and safe Halloween, and you know, more good content in the pipeline. Probably try to throw a couple of shorts at you guys over the holidays. Going to be getting busy, obviously. I'm sure the rest of you will as well. Try to upload a couple of videos, hopefully here and there, but maybe a little more spotty on the video front. But as always, good content to come. Let me know what you guys think. Certainly comment below if there's anything else you want to see, and subscribe if you like this stuff. And as always, I hope you guys have some fun.